What up, everybody? It's your boy Agent. We're back here once again. I know it's been a minute. It's that time of the year. Football is here, and already know I love my Michigan Wolverines. Yes, um, camp has been started a couple weeks ago. I was just waiting to get some news. Let stuff to process a little bit. You know how these coaches are, especially with Sharon Moore. And a lot of these coaches don't want to say a lot of things. So give it a couple weeks, get them in pads, let them see who's breaking out, who's not, who's doing well, who's not. But let's get to it. It's the moment we've been waiting for. As we talk about it going to camp, there was a lot of movement on this offensive line coming into last season. Michigan had a completely revamped offensive line, and was not the best offensive line considering those 2 years prior where they were just elite with the Joe Moore or were just all over cycling. So let's get into the camp battles and a couple of notes coming out of fall camp as an update. All right, let's start with the offensive line. Left tackle, there's a battle between Evan Link, Andrew Babilow, who's a five-star true freshman who has a chance to win this job. Evan Link probably has the inside track. He's been in the program a little longer, more developed, but I think when it's all said and done, Babilow will eventually take over. He was an elite prospect coming out of high school. He just needs time to develop. But if he wins the job, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think Evan Link gets the nod to go ahead. And at left guard, he's been cemented already by Sharon Moore in a previous press conference that Giovanni El Haddad, he will be starting at left guard. Will be a catalyst for his offensive line. I think he'll be much better, much improved from last season where he really got his first real snaps at his career at Michigan. And at center, Greg Crippen, who's pretty much been almost solidified by Sharon Moore, will be starting at center. Then at right guard is a battle between Nathan Afobe and Lawrence Hayter. He's a transfer from Ferris State University. Is a D2 school, so he's moving up. I think if Obi gets the job, he wins that. And that right tackle, Andrew Sprague, I think has the inside track. He started a few games last year, and he was amazing in that bowl game, in the ReliaQuest bowl against Alabama. You have Blake Frazier on his heels, but Blake Frazier's been banged up his time in Ann Arbor. I think it's Sprague. But one thing I do know, this offensive line will be more developed, more depth. So if any guys get hurt, so we'll be able to move guys around and get guys going. There's a couple guys who I didn't even mention. Avery Gatch is a true freshman who I think eventually will be great down line in the interior. You got Jake I'm not saying his last name because I can never pronounce it right. He's a center who I think is gonna be great for Michigan as well. But I think just a lot of depth, and that is the key for this Michigan football team. He needed it last year. This team is much improved from last year. Now Chip Lindsey is the new offensive coordinator. Coming over. Michigan needed some revamp on offense because his passing game was terrible. The quarterback play was horrendous. He gave us a spark, and I think he's going to synchronize well with Sharon Moore. Do what Sharon Moore likes to do, run the football with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall, who will be 1A, 1B elite running backs, I believe, but also open his passing game up, and that is to hearsay. He said he wants to have 6 wide receivers ready to roll, and the number one uno, the alpha dog, Donovan McCulley, the transfer from Indiana, he will be donning the number 1, previous run by David Terrell and Berlin Edwards. That's an elite company to be in, and if he can have a season like that, that would be huge for Michigan. Got junior Samaj Moore, Fred Moore, Samaj Morgan and Fred Moore. I think Samaj Morgan and Fred Moore will have more breakout years. Chip Lindsey will be able to get to the ball, more screens. Samaj had a disappointing year, 27 catches over 150 yards, only 1 touchdown last year. I think they'll be able to use him more, get him in motion. He'll be great at special teams as well. And I think it's time for Fred Moore to finally break out. He had a 3 catches, 37 yards in ReliaQuest Bowl for a touchdown against Alabama. You also got guys on the roster like Channing Goodwin, is coming into his second year. Anthony Simpson, a transfer from UMass. You got Kendrick Bell, Ronnie Bell's from a little brother. He's been in and out. Peyton O'Leary, who had a big catch in the Ohio State game last year. Andrew Marsh, the true freshman, who is the guy I got my eye on, who I think can make a big impact. Jacob Washington is a true freshman, 6'3", big body guy. I think he needs a little more time to develop. Then you got Jamar Browder, a big body receiver, 6'4", 6'5", out of the Florida. I think he needs a little time to develop. And then you got Amarion Stewart out of the Chicago area. I believe he's going to be used on special teams. So I think it's the depth. He doesn't have an elite receiver, but I do think it's going to be much better than last season, and I am super optimistic about that. Now, the quarterback battle, I'm super convinced Bryce Underwood is going to win this job. Like I said, I watched him in high school, watched him all throughout his time in the state of Michigan. I think he's going to be elite. He's going to be the true freshman. I believe gets the nod to go against New Mexico. Mikey Keene was hurt in spring ball. We got Jake Garcia as a depth guy, I believe. Jaden Davis, I still don't think is there yet, but I think this is Bryce's job to win. And even the coaches are saying they're not going to name a starter until game week, which is a little less than 2 weeks away. I'm a little over 2 weeks away, I believe. So We'll see what happens, but that won't surprise me whatsoever. And we know the D-line will be the biggest strength on this team, led by Rashawn Berry, fifth-year guy, paid his dues. I think he's going to have an explosive year. Trey Williams, Damon Payne, some guys are going to help him out as well. The secondary will be much better. Jair Hill, he has to step it up. He had his ups and downs last year in his sophomore year, playing alongside Will Johnson. Will Johnson was banged up, but Zeke Berry was also a guy who was elite. He moved from safety to corner and played well, so that just shows you his versatility. And you have a lot of other guys too, like Josiah Edmonds, sophomore, coming in. Shamari Ayers, the true freshman, who I think is gonna come in and get valuable snaps. You got Jaden Sainz, a freshman who maybe get some time. Mason Curtis, who showed some flashes against Northwestern. That's a guy I believe can get well. Rob Moore is coming back off injury. A lot of people forget about that, but he'll be back in a few games. I know he's not 100% from the ACL because he re-injured it again, had another surgery. Also got TJ Metcalf, who I think is going to be a huge impact starter, transfer guy to Arkansas. You also got Brandon Hillman, who's more of a box safety guy, makes plays. Caleb Anderson, a transfer from Louisiana, Lamar Morgan's former school. Jeremiah Lowe, sophomore out of the state of Kentucky. Just is deep. I believe Lamar Morgan will get these guys coached up and be much better and more consistent to go along with that pass rush that Michigan will have with TJ Guy, Derek Moore, Dominic Nichols. So I believe it. Also, Michigan has the best kicker in the country, Dominic Zaveda, who's on the Lou Groza award list. I think he's been elite, and it helps to have an elite kicker, especially making big kicks in big games. A couple of news, and then a couple before we get out of here, the breakout stars. I'm going to give you my breakout freshman, who I believe will make an impact for Michigan on offense. It's easy to say Bryce Underwood, so I'm going to go with Andrew Marshall. Will be wearing number 4. He's out of the Houston area, a guy who I believe will make a huge impact, and I believe he's going to be a star, and he's going to show you some flashes this season. And on defense, I'm going to go, I just talked about a minute ago, Shamari Earls wearing the number 2, which was last worn by Will Johnson. I think he's going to be an elite corner, a guy out of the state of Virginia, 6'2", good size, and good playmaker on the ball. Michigan went hard at him, got him, and I think he's going to make a huge impact as a freshman. And now the breakout players in general, we're going to go one on offense. That is going to be Donovan McCulley, Darting the number 1. He has to make a huge impact. He's 6'5", throw the deep ball up there to him. Let's make some plays and get in the end zone, because Michigan is, like I've talked about before, we needed some size at receiver, and they are going to get it in him. So he's going to make some plays, I believe, and make a huge impact. On defense, I got to go my boy. He's not officially starting, but he's going to make plays, and that is Cole Sullivan. He's flashed in camp. They've talked about him as well, and I think he's going to make huge plays. Now, a couple of notes that Sean Moore talked about in his press conference recently. Their motto is TNT, which is today, not tomorrow, which is focusing on the day ahead and getting better every day. And no major injuries thus far, which is good. So nothing's going to hold them back. So I love it. I love it for them. And also, I expect this offense to be more explosive, like I talked about with Chip Lindsey. They're going to still run the ball, going to stick to that identity, but they're going to pass the ball down the field and got to be more explosive. So it's a more, probably 50-50 more balance, and show what Bryce can do. Not only is he going to be throwing the ball down the field, he's going to be using his legs a lot. He showed that his last year at Belleville High School, and I just believe this offense, like I said, it couldn't be any worse than it was last year. And I'm just excited. I'm optimistic, and I think this is going to be much better. It's not going to be grinding your teeth and just impossible to watch. I think this team is going to make some plays, and they're going to be better. Bryce may go through some growing pains at first, but let them figure it out, and I think they're going to be fine. But with that, we'll be back more with some recruiting, with some more camp intel as we get closer to game day in a little over 2 weeks. Not next week, but the week after. I'm recording this on Thursday, August 12th. So not next week. Next week is week 0, and then Michigan plays that following Saturday night. So we'll get there. I'll be more back with the camp update intel. But before we get out of here, let's talk about some recruiting. Michigan finished that 2025 cycle well. 26, they're doing well right now, but they've already got off to a great start in the 27 class. Now they got their guy at quarterback. I know they're only going into the junior season, but this is what shapes the classes. They got elite 4-star quarterback Peter Bork, 86 nationally, 7th ranked QB, the number 1 player in the state of Massachusetts, 6'4", 195 pounds, from Tabor Academy out of Hingham, Massachusetts. Like I said, it shapes the way teams are built for the recruiting class for 27. The quarterback recruiting especially is more elevated, so it's a good pickup for Michigan. He has an elite arm. I know he's a little older for his grade, but I think he can come right in after Bryce leaves. I believe Bryce will leave after 3 years and hand him the keys right away and be ready to go. I know they have Brady Smigel in this 26 class, but I'm a little lower on him. Now, a couple other guys we'll talk about before we get out of here. Let's go with Tristan Dare out of the state of Texas, out of Southlake. Carroll out of Southlake, Texas is a powerhouse high school. Quinn Ewers went there. He's a 3-star interior offensive lineman, 467 in the nation, 56 in the state of Texas, and 34 in interior offensive lineman. I believe he has some room to grow and develop and get much better, and he can become a 4-star. Like I say, he committed early. Michigan's grabbing the offensive line recruiting. And before we get out of here, 3-star interior offensive lineman Louis Esposito, son of defensive line coach Lou Esposito, who's done a great job at Michigan during his time so far. Out of Salem, Michigan, Salem High School, 6'4", 255 pounds, 618th ranked nationally, number 40 interior offensive lineman, number 10 player out of the state of Michigan. He'll have some room to grow, add some weight, and get better. Just starting to get this off too early. And then the biggest news of them all, and I'll be back to talk about this when it breaks, August 19th, next week, yes. Next Tuesday, Savion Hyder, the number 1 running back in the 2026 recruiting class, is down to Michigan and Tennessee. Michigan's been battling for him and fighting him all year. Tony Alford, the running backs coach, built a great relationship with him, but it's coming down to Tennessee and Michigan. I believe Michigan had the inside track, but Tennessee's been pushing hard. And I believe out of any recruit, this recruit class, this is the number 1 recruit that Michigan wants. This is the guy that would draft number 1, and I think he can make a huge impact and pair with Bryce Underwood in his sophomore season. So Michigan, this is a must-get for them, but I'll be back next week to talk about that. But I just wanted to give you guys some update. I know it's been a minute since I've been back, but Michigan football is back, baby, and I'm excited. Something we can finally talk about. So, hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, love my videos. I appreciate all the love and support. It's your boy, Adrian, and I'm out. Peace, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Keeping the Score.